Before you dive into this heartwarming tale of unexpected kindness and profound love, make sure to subscribe to our channel, like this video, and comment below with your thoughts. Your support helps us share more stories that touch the soul. The Plaza Encounter, a homeless mother-to-be, and a billionaire's unexpected kindness. Imagine being 7 months pregnant, homeless, and abandoned, sleeping on a cold park bench in a sprawling city. Then, a powerful, impeccably dressed man approaches, not with judgment, but with an offer of a free apartment. What does he want in return? Nothing, he claims. But in a world where generosity often comes with a price, can trust truly be found in the most unlikely of places? This is the extraordinary story of a woman pushed to her limits and a man driven by a silent grief, whose paths converge in a way neither could have predicted. An unlikely sanctuary. "Ma'am, are you all right?" Sarah Jones slowly opened her eyes. A tall man in a dark suit was looking at her with concern. She sat up on the park bench in Central Park, New York City, feeling the cold pierce her thin clothes. "I'm fine," she lied, putting a hand to her 7-month pregnant belly. "You don't look fine," he said, not moving. "It's cold, and you've been here since yesterday." Sarah looked at him with distrust. Elegant men no longer inspired anything good in her. "It's none of your business." "You're right." Mr. Daniel Thorne took a card from his wallet. "But I have an empty apartment 2 blocks away, no strings attached, just until you find something better." "And what do you want in return?" "Nothing." Sarah laughed bitterly. "Men always want something." Daniel put the card back in his pocket. "My name is Daniel Thorne. I pass by here every day on my way to work. Yesterday I saw you sleeping here, pregnant, alone. Today you're still here. Tomorrow you'll still be here if you don't do something. And that matters to you?" "Yes." The answer was so direct that Sarah didn't know what to say. They remained silent as pigeons pecked at crumbs near their feet. "I'm Sarah Miller," she finally said. "I lost my job a week ago. My landlord kicked me out 3 days ago. I have nowhere to go." "And the baby's father?" Sarah's eyes hardened. "He doesn't exist." Daniel nodded without asking more questions. He took out the card again. "The apartment is in the Metropolitan Towers building, 12th floor, apartment 1204. Here's the address. If you want to go, the keys are with the doorman. I told him to give them to a pregnant lady." "Why are you doing this?" "Because I can." Sarah took the card with trembling fingers. The hunger and cold of 2 nights sleeping outdoors had exhausted her pride. "I don't have money to pay rent." "I'm not charging you." "Then you definitely want something." Daniel adjusted his tie knot. "All I want is for you and your baby not to spend another night on the street." He turned to leave, but Sarah stopped him. "How do I know it's not a trap?" "You don't?" Daniel shrugged. "But what do you have to lose?" Sarah looked at the card. Metropolitan Towers, a building she had seen many times. Elegant, with a uniformed doorman. A place she never imagined she could live. "If I accept, it's only temporary," she said, "until I find work." "As you wish, and I don't want you to bother me." "Understood." Sarah got up from the bench, took her only suitcase, and walked towards the park exit. After a few steps, she turned around. "Daniel Thorne?" "Yes?" "Why didn't you ask my last name until now?" Daniel smiled for the first time. "Because names don't matter when someone needs help." Sarah kept walking without answering. In her hand, the card felt like a door to something unknown. She didn't know if it was an opportunity or a mistake, but the baby in her womb reminded her that she no longer had the luxury of doubt. Daniel watched her walk away until she turned the corner. Then he took out his phone and dialed. "Good morning, it's Daniel Thorne." "Yes, apartment 1204. A pregnant lady will be there shortly for the keys. Please treat her well, and let me know when she arrives." He hung up and continued on his way to work. But for the first time in years, He didn't think about meetings, contracts. He thought about a woman sleeping on a bench and wondered what had led her there. The cold wind of New York continued to blow in Central Park, but the bench where Sarah had spent 2 nights remained empty. What are your first impressions of Daniel Thorne? Is he genuinely kind, or do you suspect a hidden motive? Share your thoughts below. A shared silence. The apartment was larger than Sarah had imagined. A spacious living room with windows overlooking the city. A small but complete kitchen. A bedroom with a double bed. And a bathroom with a shower. Everything clean. Everything empty. Everything silent. She put her suitcase on the floor and sat on the gray sofa. For the first time in days, she wasn't cold. She touched her belly and sighed. Well, baby, it looks like we have a roof over our heads for a while. The doorbell rang the next morning. Sarah opened the door cautiously and found Daniel with 2 grocery bags in his hands. Good morning. Did you sleep well? Yes. Sarah didn't invite him in. What have you got there? Food. I thought you might need it. I already told you I don't have money, and I told you I'm not charging you anything. Daniel put the bags on the hallway floor. Milk, bread, fruit, rice, chicken, vegetables, basic things. I'll leave them here. Sarah looked at the bags and then at him. Are you always so direct? Would you prefer me to beat around the bush? I'd prefer you to tell me what you really want. Daniel loosened his tie. He was coming from work and looked tired. I want you and your baby to be all right. Nothing more. Men don't do this for no reason. Some do. Sarah picked up the bags and brought them inside the apartment. Daniel didn't make a move to enter. Aren't you coming in? Are you inviting me? I'm asking if you're coming in. No, unless you want me to. Sarah studied him for a moment. He didn't seem threatening, but she also didn't trust her own judgment of men. You can come in for a moment. Daniel entered and looked around. The apartment was still practically empty, with only Sarah's open suitcase in a corner. Do you need anything else? Sheets? Pillows? I have what I need. The apartment has cable TV. The remote is in the drawer of the table. Thank you. They stood in the living room without knowing what else to say. Sarah organized the groceries in the kitchen while Daniel waited. How long have you lived in New York? She asked him. 8 months. Where are you from? Chicago. What brought you here? Sarah stopped organizing the cans. The same man who left me pregnant and alone. Daniel nodded without asking more questions. He knew that expression, that way of closing a topic. If you need anything, you can call me. He took out another card. That's my personal number. I don't have a phone. You can use the landline in the apartment. It has service. Sarah took the card. Why are you doing this, really? Daniel walked towards the door. Because 3 years ago I lost someone important, someone who needed help, and I didn't give it to her in time. Your wife? My sister. The answer was so simple and painful that Sarah felt something stir in her chest. Not compassion, but recognition. The pain of losing someone. I'm sorry. That's why I'm doing this, so that what happened to her doesn't happen to someone else. Daniel opened the door. I'll stop by every other day to see if you need anything. If you don't want to see me, you can leave a note under the door. After he left, Sarah stood looking at the closed door. She didn't know what to think of Daniel Thorne. He didn't seem to want anything from her, but her experience told her that all men wanted something. That night, for the first time in weeks, she slept without a start. The apartment was quiet and safe. When she woke the next day, she found a note that had been slipped under the door. My mother wants to meet you. She says any woman who accepts help from her son without knowing him must be very brave or very desperate. She wants to know which of the two. If you agree, you can call me. D. Sarah crumpled the note and threw it in the trash. Then she took it out, smoothed it, and put it on the kitchen table. She wasn't ready to meet Daniel Thorne's mother, but she also wasn't ready for many things that were happening to her. The baby moved in her belly, reminding her that time didn't wait for her to be ready for anything. Do you think Daniel's sister's story explains his deep-seated need to help Sarah? What impact do you think this revelation will have on Sarah's perception of him? Share your insights. A legal battle and a new life. Sarah was peeling potatoes in the kitchen when the doorbell rang. She wasn't expecting anyone. Daniel had been by the day before and had no reason to return so soon. She opened cautiously and found a young man in a courier uniform. Sarah Miller? Yes. Court summons. You need to sign here. Sarah signed with trembling hands and closed the door. The official envelope bore the seal of a family court. She opened it, her heart racing. Defamation and slander lawsuit. Mr. Robert Castillo requests... The words blurred before her eyes. Robert, the married man who had deceived her, who had promised to divorce, who had disappeared when she told him about the pregnancy, was now suing her for tarnishing his image with false accusations of paternity. She sat on the sofa and read the entire document. Robert claimed that Sarah had spread rumors about him in Chicago, that she had contacted his wife, that she was trying to blackmail him financially. All lies. Sarah had never spoken to Robert's wife. She had left Chicago precisely to avoid problems, but now he was following her to New York with lawyers and lawsuits. The phone rang that afternoon. It was Daniel. Are you all right? The doorman told me a court summons arrived. The doorman tells you everything that happens with me? I asked him to let me know if anything important arrived, in case you needed help. Sarah gripped the phone. I don't need you to watch me. I'm not watching you. I'm just concerned. Well, don't be concerned. I can solve my own problems. What does the summons say? Sarah hesitated. She had no money for a lawyer. She didn't know New York laws. She didn't know how to defend herself. My baby's father is suing me. Why? He says I'm defaming him, that I'm inventing that he's the father. There was silence on the other end of the line. Do you want me to come up? We can go over the document together, just to help you understand what it says. Nothing more. Half an hour later, Daniel was sitting on the sofa reading the summons. Sarah watched him from the kitchen, preparing tea. This type of lawsuit is common when someone wants to intimidate, Daniel said. But you need a lawyer. I don't have money for lawyers. I know someone. He's very good with family cases. I already told you I don't have money. Daniel folded the document. There are lawyers who work for the state. Public defenders. And are they good? Some are, some aren't. It depends on luck. Sarah sat beside him with the teacups. Did your sister also have legal problems? Daniel took a sip of tea before responding. No, she had other problems. But she also needed help. And I thought I could solve it alone. What happened? She died waiting for me to do something. The brutal honesty of the answer left Sarah speechless. Daniel didn't seem to be looking for compassion. He was just explaining why he insisted on helping. This man is Robert, Daniel said, changing the subject. Does he have money? Yes, he owns a transportation company in Chicago. And is he married? Yes, with 2 children. So he doesn't want it to be known that he had a relationship with you. Exactly. That's why I left Chicago, to not cause him problems. But he followed you here. Sarah nodded. He must be afraid his wife will find out. Daniel stood up and walked to the window. Do you have proof he's the father? Text messages. Some photos together. Receipts for gifts he gave me. Do you have them here? On my phone. But it ran out of battery and I don't have a charger. Daniel took a charger from his pocket. Try this one. Daniel reviewed the messages she showed him. These messages are clear. He talks about the baby, about you two as a couple. Do you think they'll be useful in court? Definitely, but you need a good lawyer. Sarah touched her belly. The baby was moving constantly now, as if sensing her stress. I don't know what to do. Daniel put Sarah's phone away and looked at her directly. Let me help you. Really? How? I know an excellent lawyer, a specialist in family cases. He's won cases more difficult than this. I can't pay him. I can. Sarah stood up abruptly. And what will you want in return? Nothing. I don't believe you. Daniel walked towards the door. Think about it. The summons says you have 15 days to respond. If you don't respond, he wins automatically. After Daniel left, Sarah stood looking at the summons on the table. Robert had found her and now wanted to destroy her legally too. She touched her belly and whispered, "I'm not going to let your father hurt us anymore, baby. Somehow we'll get through this." But deep down she knew she needed help, and Daniel was the only person offering it. Considering Daniel's past trauma and his current actions, what do you think he truly seeks by helping Sarah? Is it just to atone for his past, or is there more to his intentions? Share your thoughts. A midnight call and a helping hand. It was 3 a.m. when Sarah woke with a pain shooting through her back. She slowly sat up, thinking it was another sleepless night. But then she felt something wet between her legs. "No, no, no," she murmured, touching her belly. "There are still 2 weeks left." Another stronger pain doubled her over. She managed to reach the phone and dialed the only number she knew by heart. "Hello?" Daniel's voice sounded sleepy. "Daniel, it's Sarah. I think the baby's coming." "Now?" "Yes, now," she cried out as another contraction hit her. "I'm coming. Don't move. Don't do anything." "How can I not do anything? Everything hurts." "Breathe slowly. I'm going to call my mother. She knows about this. We'll be there in 10 minutes. Sarah managed to get dressed between contractions. She threw a few things into a bag, but the pain made her dizzy. When Daniel knocked on the door, she was sitting on the living room floor, breathing as she had seen in movies. "Where's your mother?" she asked when he entered. "She's coming up the stairs. The elevator is broken." A woman in her 60s, elegant but practical, entered behind Daniel. "I'm Mrs. Eleanor Thorne," she said, kneeling beside Sarah. "How often are the pains coming?" "I don't know. Here comes another one." Eleanor took her hand. "Breathe with me. Like this. Very good." "We have to go to the hospital," Daniel said nervously. "Yes, but calmly." Eleanor helped Sarah to stand up. "Do you have everything ready? A bag with clothes?" "Perfect. Daniel, bring the car to the door." The trip to the hospital was eternal. Sarah clutched the seat as Eleanor talked to distract her. "Do you know if it's a boy or a girl?" "Boy." "Does he have a name?" "Samuel." "Beautiful name." At the hospital, everything happened very quickly. The nurses took Sarah away in a wheelchair while Daniel filled out papers at admissions. "Is he the father?" the nurse asked. Daniel hesitated. "He's a friend. I'm paying for everything." 3 hours later, Eleanor came out of the delivery area. "It's a beautiful boy. Sarah is fine, but tired." Daniel got up from the seat where he had been waiting. "Can I see her?" "In a bit. Let her rest a little." When he finally could go in, Sarah was lying down with a small bundle in her arms. She looked exhausted, but peaceful. "Look," she said softly. "It's Samuel." Daniel approached slowly. The baby had his eyes closed, a tiny, wrinkled face, clenched fists. "He's so small." "Babies are small, Daniel. Is he all right?" "Perfect. 7.5 pounds." Daniel sat in the chair beside the bed. He didn't know why, but seeing Sarah with the baby caused something strange in his chest. "Do you need anything?" "Sleep. My mother brought clothes for the baby. She says all babies need more clothes than you think." Sarah smiled for the first time in days. "Your mother is very kind." "She likes you. How can you tell?" "Because if she didn't like you, she wouldn't have come at 3 a.m. Samuel opened his eyes and looked around, as if exploring the new world. "Hello, baby," Sarah whispered. "Here we are." Daniel watched them for a while. Mother and son seemed a complete unit, something that needed nothing else. "The doctor says you can go home tomorrow," he said. "To the apartment?" "Yes, unless you prefer to go somewhere else." Sarah looked at him. "Is the apartment still available?" "Always. Even if there's a baby crying all night now. Babies cry. It's normal." Samuel began to make small noises. Sarah adjusted to breastfeed him. "Can you give me a minute?" she asked. "Of course." Daniel went out into the hallway where Eleanor was waiting with coffee. "How is she?" his mother asked. "Good. Tired, but good. And you?" "Me what?" "How do you feel?" Daniel leaned against the wall. "I don't know. Strange." "Strange how?" "Like I'm important. Like that baby is, I don't know." Eleanor put a hand on his shoulder. "Careful, son." "Careful with what?" "With what you're feeling." "I'm not feeling anything special." "Of course you are. And so is she." Daniel looked towards the room door. "She's just a friend who needed help." "Yes," Eleanor said. "Keep telling yourself that." When they returned to the room, Sarah had Samuel sleeping in her arms. The three of them looked so peaceful that Daniel didn't want to interrupt. But something had changed in those few hours. Something he didn't know how to explain or what to do with. For the first time in his life, he wanted to stay in a hospital, watching a baby sleep who wasn't his. What do you make of Daniel's internal conflict and his mother's observations? Do you believe his feelings for Sarah are growing beyond simple friendship and a desire to atone for his past? Comment below. Beyond charity, a deepening connection. 2 weeks after Samuel's birth, Daniel knocked on the apartment door with a proposal he had been thinking about since the hospital. "Good morning," he said when Sarah opened. "How are you, Samuel?" "Good," she replied. "He sleeps more at night now." "I'm glad to hear that. May I come in?" Sarah let him in. The apartment looked different now. There were baby clothes hanging on an improvised line, diapers stacked on the table, and the sweet smell of newborns. "I wanted to talk to you about something," Daniel said. "Is something wrong?" "No, on the contrary. I have a larger apartment in the same building. 3 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, a spacious kitchen. I thought with Samuel, you might need more space." Sarah, who was folding baby clothes, stopped. "How much does it cost?" "The same as this one. This one costs me nothing." "Exactly." Sarah sat on the sofa. "Why would you do that?" "Because a baby needs space, a room of his own, a place to play when he grows up. Daniel, I can't keep living on your charity." "It's not charity." "Then what is it?" Daniel loosened his tie, as he always did when he felt uncomfortable. "It's friendship. Friends don't give away apartments. Friends help when they can." And Sarah continued folding clothes. "Your mother came yesterday." "My mother? What for?" "To meet Samuel. She stayed 2 hours. She told me you're paying the lawyer for my case." Daniel fell silent. "Is it true?" Sarah insisted. "Yes." "Why didn't you tell me?" "Because I knew you'd be upset." Sarah dropped the clothes and looked directly at him. "What else are you doing for me that I don't know about?" "Nothing else." "I don't believe you." Daniel stood up and walked to the window. "You're paying the lawyer," Sarah continued. "You gave me a free apartment. You buy the food. What else?" "I paid the hospital." "What?" "The delivery bill, the private room, the pediatrician. Everything." Sarah stood up abruptly. Samuel, who was sleeping in his carrier, woke up and started crying. "How dare you! The baby had to be born. You didn't have medical insurance. That was my responsibility. What money was I going to use to pay?" Sarah picked up Samuel, who continued to cry. "That's none of your business. It is my business. Why? Why do I matter so much to you?" Daniel turned to her. "Because when I saw you in that park, pregnant and alone, you reminded me of my sister. Your sister had nothing to do with me. My sister died because I thought I could fix her problems with money. I gave her money for drugs, thinking that's how I was helping her. I never gave her what she really needed. And what did she need? Someone to listen to her, someone to understand her, without judging her." Samuel stopped crying and nestled in Sarah's arms. "I'm not your sister, Daniel. I know. And you can't save me by paying my bills. I'm not trying to save you." "Then what are you trying to do?" Daniel approached her. "I'm trying to do the right thing." "And what's the right thing?" "To help someone who needs it." Sarah sat down again, rocking Samuel. "You don't know me. You know nothing about my life. How do you know I deserve your help?" "It's not about deserving." "Then what is it about?" Daniel sat opposite her. "It's about you never asking me for anything. Every time I offer you something, you reject it. Every time I try to help you, you tell me you don't need help, because I don't need it. Yes, you do, and I need to give it." Sarah looked at him for a long moment. "Do you know what I think? Tell me." "I think you feel guilty about your sister, and you think that by helping me, you'll feel better. Maybe." The honesty of his answer surprised Sarah. "At least you're sincere." "I try to be." Samuel had fallen asleep again. Sarah put him back in his carrier and crossed her arms. "I don't want the bigger apartment." "Why not?" "Because every time I accept something from you, I feel like I owe you something. You don't owe me anything." "Then why do I feel that way?" Daniel didn't know what to say. "Do you know what else your mother told me yesterday?" Sarah continued. "What?" "That since she met me, you've changed. That you talk differently. That you smile more. My mother says many things. Is it true?" Daniel stood up to leave. "I think I should go." "Why?" "Because we're talking seriously. Because I don't want to complicate things." Sarah stood up and faced him. "Things are already complicated, Daniel. Since the day you offered me this apartment, what do you want me to do?" "I want you to let me live my life. With my mistakes, with my problems, but my life. Does that include stopping helping you? That includes stopping feeling responsible for me." Daniel nodded and headed for the door. "The big apartment is still available if you change your mind." "I won't change my mind." After he left, Sarah stood in the middle of the living room, feeling something strange in her chest. She didn't know if it was relief or sadness. Samuel woke and looked at her with his big, dark eyes. "It's complicated, baby," she whispered. "Men always complicate everything." What do you think is the biggest barrier preventing Sarah from fully accepting Daniel's help and his growing feelings? Is it her past or her desire for independence? Share your thoughts below. A leap of faith. 3 weeks passed without Daniel appearing. Sarah didn't know whether to feel relieved or worried. She had grown accustomed to his regular visits, his offers of help, his silent but constant presence. Samuel was growing fast, already smiling when she spoke to him and sleeping better at night. Sarah had found work at a bakery near the building. The owner, Mr. Garcia, allowed her to bring Samuel and put him in an improvised crib behind the counter. "That baby brings good luck," Mr. Garcia used to say. "I've been selling more bread since he arrived." The work didn't pay much, but it was enough to buy diapers and food. Sarah felt useful again, independent, though sometimes, at night, she wondered how Daniel was doing. One Tuesday afternoon, when she returned from work, she found a white envelope under her door. Her name was written in clear, masculine handwriting. Inside was a single sheet of paper with a few lines. "Sarah, I hope you and Samuel are well. I respect your decision not to want my help, but I wanted you to know something. I don't help you because I feel guilty about my sister. I help you because I care about what happens to you. If one day you want someone to walk beside you, without carrying, without directing, just walking, I'll be here. Daniel." Sarah read the letter 3 times. Then she put it on the kitchen table and prepared Samuel's bottle. "What do you think, baby?" she asked him as she fed him. "Do you think he's sincere?" Samuel looked at her with those eyes that seemed to understand everything and nothing. The days continued the same. Work, Samuel. The simple routines of a single mother. But the letter remained on the table, and Sarah read it every night before sleeping. A week later, Eleanor Thorne knocked on her door. "Good afternoon, Sarah." "May I come in?" "Of course, Mrs. Thorne." The woman entered and went directly to Samuel, who was in his crib. "Every day he looks more like you," she said, picking him up. "How is Daniel?" Sarah asked, able to stop herself, working a lot, too much. "Is he all right?" Eleanor sat on the sofa, with Samuel in her arms. "May I speak frankly?" "Always." "My son is in love with you." Sarah felt her heart race. "Mrs. Thorne, I don't..." Let me finish. He's in love, but he doesn't know what to do with it. He's never cared about women the way he cares about you. I didn't seek this out. I know. That's why I like you. Why didn't you seek him out? Eleanor handed Samuel back to her. He thinks you don't feel anything for him. It's complicated. Why? Sarah sat beside her. Because I'm scared. Of what? That he's only helping me out of pity. That he'll get tired of playing my savior. That one day he'll wake up and realize I'm just a woman with a baby. And a lot of problems. Eleanor nodded. Do you know why my daughter died? Daniel told me it was because of drugs. She committed suicide. The drugs were just her way of escaping something bigger. Sarah didn't know what to say. Daniel blames himself because he thinks he didn't do enough. But the truth is, my daughter didn't want to be saved. You do. How do you know? Because you work. Because you take care of your son. Because you don't ask Daniel for anything, even though you need it. Eleanor stood up to leave. My son isn't helping you out of pity, Sarah. He's helping you because he sees something worthwhile in you. And what does he see? Strength, dignity, love. After Eleanor left, Sarah thought about her words. That night, after putting Samuel to bed, she took out Daniel's letter and read it again. If one day you want someone to walk beside you. For the first time since she arrived in New York, Sarah admitted something she had been avoiding. She missed Daniel. She missed his visits, his careful questions, his way of helping without making a fuss. But she was also afraid to believe in something good after Robert had destroyed her, afraid to depend on someone again, afraid that Daniel would realize she wasn't special, just a woman who had made mistakes. She folded the letter and put it on her nightstand. She wasn't ready to answer, but she couldn't throw it away either. Samuel woke up crying. As she calmed him, Sarah looked at herself in the room mirror. She saw a young woman, tired but strong. A woman who had survived betrayal, abandonment, sleeping on the street. Maybe I am worth it, she whispered to Samuel. Maybe I am. But the words sounded like a question, not an affirmation. Outside, New York was still awake, full of lights and noise. But in Sarah's apartment, there was only silence and a letter waiting for a reply. Eleanor's honesty and Daniel's letter have clearly impacted Sarah. Do you think Sarah is ready to take a chance on love and partnership with Daniel, or will her past fears hold her back? Share your predictions. A new definition of home. 3 months had passed since Sarah last saw Daniel. Samuel was now 6 months old. He smiled constantly and tried to sit up on his own. Work at the bakery was going well, and Mr. Garcia had raised her salary. One Saturday morning, Sarah decided to take Samuel to the flea market downtown. She needed bigger clothes for the baby, and had heard they sold good, cheap things there. She was walking among the stalls with Samuel in his carrier when she saw him. Daniel was in front of a fruit stand, choosing oranges. He was wearing jeans and a casual shirt. He looked more relaxed than she remembered. Sarah felt the urge to turn around and run, but Samuel started making noises and waving his arms. Daniel turned when he heard the baby's sounds. Their eyes met across the crowd. Daniel smiled. That small smile Sarah remembered well. "Hello," he said. Approaching. "Hello, how is Samuel?" "Good." Daniel looked at the baby, who was observing him with curiosity. "He's huge. How much does he weigh now?" 8 kilos. The pediatrician says he's perfect." "I'm glad to hear that." They stood in the middle of the market, people passing around them, not knowing what else to say. "Would you like to join me for something to drink?" Daniel asked. "There's a coffee shop nearby." Sarah hesitated. "I don't bite," he added. And for the first time in months, Sarah laughed. "All right, but just for a bit." The coffee shop was small and noisy, full of families with children. They found a table by the window. Daniel ordered coffee. Sarah ordered hot chocolate. "You look good," he said, more relaxed. "I feel better. I like work." "Work? At a bakery?" "Mr. Garcia lets me bring Samuel." Daniel nodded. "And the case with Robert?" "We won. Your lawyer was very good." "I'm glad to hear that." Sarah looked at him directly. "Thank you for paying the lawyer." "You're welcome. How are you?" "Good." "Working a lot?" "Your mother told me too much." Daniel smiled. "My mother talks a lot." "I like your mother." "She likes you too." Samuel began to fuss. Sarah took him out of the carrier and put him on her lap. The baby looked at Daniel with interest. "Can I hold him?" Daniel asked. "Of course." Daniel took Samuel carefully. The baby studied him for a moment and then smiled. "I think he recognizes me," Daniel said, surprised. "Babies don't forget faces." Daniel gently rocked Samuel, who seemed completely comfortable in his arms. "Did you get my letter?" he asked without looking at Sarah. "Yes." "And?" Sarah stirred her hot chocolate. "I read it many times." But I'm scared," Daniel continued rocking Samuel. "Scared of what?" "Of depending on someone again. Of believing something can work out, and then it goes wrong." "I understand." "Really?" "Yes, I'm scared too." "You? Of what?" Daniel handed Samuel back. "Of not being enough. Of one day you realizing that I'm just a man who works a lot and doesn't know how to talk about feelings." Sarah looked at him. Surprised, "But you have money, a company, a life put together." "I have money, yes, but not a life put together. Before I met you, my life was work, work, and more work. I came home to an empty house. I ate alone. I slept alone. And now? Now I come home and think of you. I wonder how Samuel is. If you need anything. If you're okay." Sarah felt something stir in her chest. "Daniel, you don't have to say anything. I just wanted you to know." Samuel began to cry. He was hungry. "I should go," Sarah said. "It's time for his meal." "Can I walk you? To my apartment? If you let me." Sarah nodded. The walk back was silent, but not awkward. Daniel carried Sarah's purchases while she carried Samuel. At the apartment, Sarah prepared the bottle while Daniel waited in the living room. "The apartment looks good," he said. "It's perfect for the two of us. Are you happy here?" Sarah sat down to feed Samuel his bottle. "Yes, but sometimes I feel lonely." "Only sometimes? All right. Almost always I feel lonely." Daniel approached and sat beside her on the sofa. "Can I stay a little longer?" "For what?" "So neither of us feels alone." Sarah looked at him. In his eyes there was something different. Not pity, not guilt. Something that resembled hope. "You can stay," she finally said. Daniel smiled and settled into the sofa. For the first time in months, Sarah felt that maybe, just maybe, she didn't have to do everything alone. Samuel finished his bottle and fell asleep between them. "He looks peaceful," Daniel whispered. "He's at peace. And you?" Sarah looked at Daniel, then at Samuel, then back at Daniel. "I'm starting to be." This interaction marks a significant turning point. What does Daniel's admission of his own loneliness reveal about him? And how might it impact Sarah's willingness to trust him? Comment below. Building a chosen family. After that meeting at the market, Daniel began visiting Sarah on weekends. He didn't arrive with gifts or offers of help. He simply showed up and asked if he could stay for a while. Sometimes they played with Samuel on the living room floor. Sometimes they talked while she cooked. Sometimes they just sat together watching TV. With Samuel asleep between them. One Sunday afternoon, after 3 months of these visits, Daniel remained quiet longer than usual. "Is something wrong?" Sarah asked. "I was thinking about something." "About what?" Daniel got up from the sofa and walked to the window, as he always did when he felt nervous. "That this can't continue like this." Sarah felt her stomach clench. "What do you mean?" "I mean I come here, spend time with you, leave, and then I count the days until I can come back. And is that wrong? Daniel turned to her. It's not wrong, but it's not right either. I don't understand. Sarah, I'm in love with you. The words hung in the air. Samuel, who was playing with his blocks on the floor, continued playing as if nothing had happened. But for Sarah, everything stopped. I already knew, she finally said. You did? Your mother told me months ago. Daniel laughed. My mother is always ahead of the curve. And what do you want me to do with that information? Daniel approached and sat in front of her. I want you to come live with me. Not as your benefactor. Not as someone who helps you, but as your partner. Sarah got up from the sofa. Your partner? Yes. And what exactly does that mean? Daniel stood up too. It means we share life, the good times and the bad. It means Samuel has a father, even if he's not his biological father. It means you don't have to do everything alone. And what do I gain from that arrangement? How? Sarah crossed her arms. You gain an instant family, an adorable baby, and a woman. But what do I gain? Daniel looked at her, surprised. You gain someone who loves you. Only that? Only that? Sarah, I'm talking about love, and I'm talking about practicality. Will I still work? If you want to. Will I still study? Because I want to finish my degree. Of course. Will I make the decisions about Samuel? Together. No, me alone. He's my son. Daniel ran a hand through his hair. All right. You alone. And what if one day I decide it's not working and I want to leave? You can leave whenever you want. Sarah studied him for a moment. Why do you agree to everything I say? Because I want you to feel safe with me. And what if I don't love you? Daniel hesitated for the first time. Don't you love me? I don't know. Not yet. But could you love me? Sarah looked at Samuel, who had stopped playing and was observing them with curiosity. Yes, I could. Then let's give it a chance. Where would we live? I have a house in Brooklyn Heights, 3 bedrooms, a garden near good schools. Your house? Our house. Sarah sat down again. The proposal had caught her by surprise, though deep down she knew this moment would come. I need time to think. How much time? I don't know. Time. Daniel approached Samuel and knelt beside him. What do you think, champ? Would you like to live in a house with a garden? Samuel smiled at him and offered him one of his blocks. I think he likes the idea, Daniel said. Baby's like everyone. That's not true. Samuel is very selective. He doesn't smile at Mr. Garcia from the bakery. Sarah laughed despite her nervousness. Mr. Garcia is grumpy. Exactly. Samuel knows how to choose people. Daniel stood up and headed for the door. Are you leaving? Sarah asked. Yes, you need to think, and I need not to pressure you. When will you be back? When you call me. Daniel paused at the door. Sarah, it's not about you needing me. It's about me needing you. After he left, Sarah stood on the sofa with Samuel in her arms. What do you think, baby? Should we move in with Daniel? Samuel looked at her with those big eyes that seemed to understand everything. I know you like him, but this is complicated for me. She got up and walked around the apartment, the place that had been her refuge for more than a year, where she had given birth to Samuel, where she had cried for Robert, where she had learned to be a single mother. But it was also the place where she had known Daniel's quiet love, where she had discovered that not all men were like Robert. That night, after putting Samuel to bed, Sarah sat at the kitchen table with paper and pencil. She wrote a list of reasons to accept Daniel's proposal. Then, she wrote a list of reasons to reject it. Both lists had the same number of points. In the end, she wrote a single question. Can I be happy with him? And for the first time in a long time, the answer that came to her was, yes, I can try. What does Sarah's decision to try signify for her journey of healing and new beginnings? How has her understanding of happiness and family evolved throughout this story? Share your thoughts below. Our home 6 months later, the house in Brooklyn Heights had found its rhythm. Sarah woke up early to study before Samuel woke up. Daniel prepared breakfast while she got ready for university. The three of them had breakfast together before each went about their day. Sarah had resumed her business administration studies. Daniel insisted on paying the tuition, but this time she accepted on one condition. It was a loan she would repay when she graduated. "Why?" he had protested. "To make it fair," she had replied. Samuel, now over a year old, crawled all over the house as if he owned it. He called Daniel Dad, although Sarah had made sure to explain to him, when he was older, who his biological father was. One Sunday afternoon, Eleanor Thorne arrived for a visit with her camera. "I want a family picture," she announced. "Mrs. Thorne, we're not—" "Not what?" Eleanor interrupted her. "Not a family?" Sarah looked at Daniel, who was playing on the floor with Samuel. They were both laughing as they built a tower with blocks. "I guess we are a family," she finally said. "Then come here. Daniel, leave those toys. Samuel, come with Grandma." Eleanor arranged them on the living room sofa, Daniel in the middle, Sarah beside him, Samuel on her lap. "Smile," Eleanor said, "but really, not those fake photo smiles." Daniel put his arm around Sarah's shoulders. She naturally leaned against him. Samuel clapped and laughed, trying to touch the camera. "Perfect," Eleanor said, taking several photos. A week later, Eleanor arrived with the developed and framed photo. "For you," she said, handing it to Daniel. In the photo, the three looked natural and happy. Sarah had a smile Daniel hadn't seen before, relaxed and genuine. Samuel looked chubby and content. Daniel looked like he had never looked before, like a man who had found his place. "It's beautiful," Sarah said. "Where should we put it?" Daniel asked. "In your office," Sarah suggested. "So you remember us when you're working." Daniel took the photo to his office and put it on his desk, next to his diplomas and business awards. But the next day he moved it to the shelf, where it was more visible. Every morning, when he entered his office, his eyes went first to that photo, not to the important contracts or meeting reminders, but to the image of him with Sarah and Samuel on their living room sofa. One afternoon, while reviewing some documents, his partner Mark entered the office. "Is that your family?" he asked, pointing to the photo. "Yes, they look happy." "We are." Mark approached to look at the photo more closely. "The child looks like you." Daniel smiled. "He's not my biological son." "Oh? But you love him as if he were." More. More because I chose him. And he chose me." That night, Daniel came home and found Sarah studying at the dining room table, while Samuel played near her. "How was your day?" she asked, without looking up from her books. "Good." Mark saw the family photo. "And what did he say?" "That Samuel looks like Métis." Sarah looked up. "It's true. He has your way of frowning when he's concentrating." Daniel approached and kissed Sarah's head. "Do you know what my mother told me yesterday?" "What?" "That she wrote something on the back of the photo before giving it to us." Sarah closed her book. "What did she write?" Daniel took the photo from his briefcase and turned it over. On the back, in Eleanor's elegant handwriting, was a note. "Now, my son finally understood what home is." Sarah read the note twice. "Your mother is very wise." "What do you think?" Daniel asked. "Is this a home?" Sarah looked around. The house had Samuel's toys scattered on the floor, university books on the table, Daniel's jacket hanging on a chair. Music could be heard from the kitchen, and the smell of dinner slowly cooking. Samuel crawled to Daniel and pulled himself up by his pants to stand. "Papa," he said clearly. "Yes," Sarah replied, picking up Samuel. "This is a home." Daniel put the photo back in its place, among the technical books and business trophies. But he knew that image was his most important achievement. Not because he had saved Sarah, or because he had formed a family, but because he had learned that love is not about rescuing someone, but about walking together towards something better. And in that photo was the proof that they had succeeded. Were you moved by the story of Sarah, Daniel, and little Samuel? This beautiful narrative teaches us that true love doesn't always arrive as we expect it, but when we need it most. Sometimes families are formed in unexpected ways, and homes are built with brave decisions and hearts willing to heal together. The transformation of a vulnerable woman into a strong and independent mother, alongside a man who learned that loving means walking beside someone without trying to rescue them, reminds us that we all deserve a second chance at love. If this story touched your heart as much as ours, don't forget to like this video and share it with those special people who also believe in happy endings, built day by day. Subscribe to our channel for more stories that celebrate mature love, personal growth, and the beauty of chosen families. And tell us in the comments, what country are you watching from? We love knowing that our stories travel the world and touch hearts in different places. Your support makes it possible for us to continue sharing these emotional narratives.